We're finally moving on to the question of who Totoro is. Oh, it took so long. Now, here is Totoro. Well, this is a scene where he meets Satsuki for the first time. When the movie was first released, Totoro was announced to be 2 meters tall and 1,302 years old. But there are different theories. The most popular saying is that the primordial forest in the last scene of Princess Mononoke dies in the end, but later revives. No, there's a character called Kodama. This teeny tiny character is sitting surrounded by young trees and shaking his head. And he's the only survivor in the scene. Miyazaki later said, "This is Totoro." If this is true, because Princess Mononoke takes place around the end of the Muromachi period, which is 1400s, well, it's said to take place 100 years before the arrival of the Gons, so it should be 500 to 600 years old, like around 1450. Which makes Totoro's age 500 to 600 years old, but there's a background story to this setting according to Miyazaki. A genius animator called Makiko Futaki was in charge of this scene. She was such an amazing animator. Unfortunately, she passed away, but she said to Miyazaki, "Can we say that Kodama is Totoro?" She was drawing the last scene herself, and when it came to the scene where there are only trees, she said to Miyazaki, "How about we add just one Kodama in the scene?" Then Miyazaki said, "Oh, that's a good idea, let's do that." That's how one Kodama appears in the last scene. Futaki said, "I have been working on Princess Mononoke as an animator all this time, and the current ending is too much to bear. We always end up criticizing as human beings by questioning, why do we always fail? It's too much to take. I want hope in the end, so why not add Kodama and say it's Totoro?" And Miyazaki said, "Great, let's do that." Therefore, it's not his original idea, he just accepted someone else's. So the official setting of My Neighbor Totoro says he's 1,302 to 3 years old, while another theory written in various articles says that it's grown-up version of Kodama, but it's just been added afterwards. He's actually a lot older. In an interview with Miyazaki, it's written that Totoro has lived longer than 3,000 years. That's obviously way older than 1,302 years old or 500 to 600 years old as the latest scene of Princess Mononoke indicates. This is something about Totoro that children don't need to know about. This kind of stuff is for adults, and children must fall asleep halfway through the story if they hear it. Once they become adults, they can appreciate it. There's a series called Ghibli's Textbook, published by Bungei Shunju, which is an official publication by Ghibli. And in one volume of the series titled The Wind Rises, a Ghibli producer Toshio Suzuki said, "Miya-san, as in Miyazaki, Miya-san had such a delusion about Totoro. Once there were many Totoro tribes in this world, they were destroyed by fighting mankind. But the survivors appeared in many different eras. Mononoke or supernatural beings in the Middle Ages, ghosts in the Edo period, and now Totoro. Totoro has such a history. It's not just a cute creature. It can also be fearful." This is such a shocking remark. Normal audience watching the movie may think that Totoro disappeared from Japan because the beautiful nature during the late 1950s to 60s has been lost from Japan. But that's not the reason. It was because they were destroyed by fighting humans, and this is the original plot of My Neighbor Totoro, which Miyazaki came up with. Then what was that fight all about? Before discussing that, let's talk about another feature of Totoro. Oh, I actually have to hold on to this. This is the scene where Mei first sees Totoro. When she comes down from the hole in a tree, she finds this huge creature, but then there is also something strange in the picture. Almost everything in this place where Totoro inhabits is natural, but these are the only artificial things. So what are they? Well, I will show you a close-up shot later, but these are pottery from the Jomon period, and he actually uses them. I'll talk about this a little later. Totoro is such a strange creature. He doesn't use any tools, but he has Jomon pottery for some reason. Besides this one, there are more mysteries about Totoro. For example, in the scene where Satsuki meets Totoro for the first time, he just stands there still as if it's daily routine. He rather looks bored. It's because Totoro uses this bus every day. Cat bus is a regular bus which always arrives at that time. That's why Totoro seems bored. Miyazaki explained the reason for this. He wanted Totoro to behave like an ordinary old man waiting for a bus every day at the same time at a bus stop. That's why he intentionally wrote on the storyboard, "This old man." That's how normal it is for Totoro to be there, that he uses that bus every day. In other words, it's not the first time for Satsuki to see Totoro or to meet him, but they just couldn't see each other at all. Satsuki must have passed by him around this bus stop almost every day, but they have been invisible to each other. Miyazaki wrote a cautionary note very carefully and repeatedly at the drawing stage. It said, "Please make Totoro's eyes out of focus. For Totoro's facial expressions, please make sure that they do not meet Satsuki and Mei in the eyes. He has to look like he's not thinking about anything. People shouldn't be able to read his mind." He kept making these requests, and at the end Miyazaki was like, me, I'll do them, which was what Tezuka always did, and volunteered to do majority of Totoro's drawings. But what's interesting was that he was not interested in Satsuki. So, speaking of being invisible to humans, this one story which I personally think is scary. So there might only be a tiny bit of scary element in it, but there was one episode in this TV program that I watched that was so scary, and it was about psychic photos. They brought them to an exorcist. Then they said, "Oh, this is a ghost of so-and-so, this and that." But when they saw this one photo, as soon as they took a glance at it, they laid it face down. Then in a hurry, they wrapped it with I forgot paper or something, then said, "There's something in this picture that no one should see." Then they said, "Dedicate it to a shrine nearby and ask them to deal with it. Just don't look at it ever again." The reporters asked, "What shouldn't be seen?" Then the exorcist hesitantly said, "It's a god." This is my favorite or scary story because it shows the difference between Shinto gods and Western gods. In the West, if anyone can see a god, it's a miracle, and they would be seen as a prophet. Gods are invisible, so being able to see them is good news. However, Shinto gods, or the gods of those religions before they came Shinto originally, cannot be seen. And once they are, they need to be worshipped because otherwise they would haunt people. This is what's interesting about Japanese gods. This is a real and common thing in countryside. There are places where those grandfathers and grandmothers who grew up in the forest never go into. They would never go in there and say if they go, they feel the chill. It's different from the area in the forest where people go hiking and relax. It's like a mixed forest where people inhabit. It's deeper inside. It's either in the primeval forests or the sacred shrine forests. Somewhere, people don't feel so comfortable living or feel creepy by going there. Because it's a place where people feel a chill. They don't go near there. That's why there's no mountain path to those places. You know how people feel purified or energized by going to those spiritual places? That's just a lie. You don't get any energy. If there is a place where true energies flow out, where there is a real power, even local people never go there. There are no roads, no shrines, and no archaeological sites because no one goes there. There's always a place deep in the mountains that gives people a bad feeling, and those who are well aware of the place never approach there. Japanese people have called such places as mountain sanctuaries. Totoro lives in such a place. Of course, there's a lie towards the kids' audience of My Neighbor Totoro where the characters see a big camphor tree and say, "Wow, what a nice tree. Awesome, Daddy decided to move in here when I saw this tree. But if it was really nice, everybody would live there." In reality, Totoro lives in a place where you have a bad feeling, so you don't go near it. That's how the forest is protected. So, what is he? Or who are Totoros really? Totoros are ancient gods, ancient Japanese gods. At the same time, they're indigenous people who have lived in Japan way before humans did. They have coexisted well with humans during the Jomon period, and that's why you see there are some Jomon pottery pieces in Totoro's house. They aren't just there, but neatly placed in the room. And the straw row patterns are drawn in the fine details. So, what this is that, well, let me show you one more. Sorry. This is an exciting scene here. Totoro takes out this huge top made of iron from somewhere that looks like a pocket. He launches it forcefully, gets on it, and flies into the sky. It's a dramatic scene, but the spinning top is not a tool for flying. According to the setting, he received it from the boy who was playing with it during the Edo period. In an interview, Miyazaki said that Totoro learned how to make Jomon pottery from the Jomon people. He actually learned and made one for himself, that pottery we saw. He also imitated a boy from the Edo period spinning tops. Miyazaki said Totoro has lived for 3,000 years. He thinks he's learned them only recently. Like the top, the umbrella he receives from Satsuki is just a toy. Totoro doesn't care about the original purposes of those tools. To him, everything is either a toy or a musical instrument. Miyazaki then said, maybe Kanta's grandmother has met Totoro, maybe when she was walking outside crying after being scolded by her parents. Perhaps Totoro thinks of her grandmother and Mei as the same girl. Miyazaki created a setting that those people may have played with Totoro when they were very young. However, only Jomon pottery is used correctly, unlike the umbrella or the spinning top. By the way, it looks like he flies by riding the spinning top, but no, Totoro can fly without any tools. It's just fun to spin a top and ride it when he flies. So there's no meaning to it. It's just like how he uses umbrella as a tool for prayer. He does something that has nothing to do with the original usage of those tools. To summarize, Totoro's are forest gods who have lived in Japan for more than 3,000 years. They could coexist with people from the Jomon era, but then later got into a war with humans and were destroyed. The Totoro that comes out in the movie is the last survivor, so why did they die out?